Georgia and Ole Miss face off in the quarterfinals in a rematch down in New Orleans. You know what they say, Keegan? You can't spell sugar without UGA. As always, I'm Chito, and with me is my co-host Keegan, and welcome back to another episode of Dawgs Off the Leash.
Do it for the dogs. Do it for the dogs. I do it for the dogs. I do it for my dogs. Who you do it for? Who you do it for?
Hey, bro, I've been trying to do what I can to not let the rust catch up on me, but I've definitely gotten my rest, and I'm excited for this Georgia game in New Orleans, big-time opponent, and even though if you zoom in, people will say it's a rematch, to me, if you zoom out, it's a little bit about like going further than we did last year in what was a crazy, tragic in many ways trip to New Orleans. And then if you zoom out even further, it's about pushing the boundaries, pushing the limits for what could be a third championship run in just 5 years. So that's exciting shit to me, and I really think that this Georgia team has it in them. But how are you feeling, generally speaking, about this team? And yeah, like what's been going on with you, man? I haven't caught up with you in a minute.
Yeah, you know, we're in the midst of the holidays. Holidays have been good. We're in those kind of dog days at the end of the year to where you almost stop looking at the calendar, you know, paying attention to what days or what. And the week just kind of goes from Christmas to New Year's to middle of the January real quick. But from a Georgia aspect, I don't know. This year feels a little bit different. I felt like we had a really good position on the draw with the seeding. This team kind of feels like they want to right the ship from the year that we lost. When we had the first round bye, Carson Beck goes down. We lose to Notre Dame, which was a really good team. But this team kind of feels like, hey, this is a chance that we have again, a chance that not a lot of teams have. And we're going to make up for everything that we thought we had with the last team that got to this position. That's what it really feels like, especially from a Gunnar Stockton standpoint. You know, he was thrust into the limelight. And I think this is like a redemption arc for Gunnar Stockton. He's not had the turnover issues this year that he had in his first start against a playoff caliber team. So I think he's really locked in. I think the rest of this roster and this coaching staff is really locked in as well.
Chito, you touched on it a little bit earlier. We're in this malaise of the holidays. You're eating the sugar. You got all this extra free time on your hands. And even though this Georgia team surely has been more engaged, more action-oriented with all the practices, I know Colbie and this coaching staff is doing everything they can in their power to avoid the rust. So they're doing more Bloody Tuesdays. They're really trying to use the psychological aspects of the mental game to come in ready and prepared. But to me, doing as much of that as you can, it's really hard to replicate live competition. So in that sense, I think Georgia is fighting to come out as hot as Ole Miss. You can't replicate the juice that Ole Miss is coming off of in their first major playoff win. So I think we're at a slight disadvantage there, but I think Georgia can overcome it, and I just want to see us start with some tenacity.
Yeah, and to your point, it goes back to that rest versus rust conversation, right? We've been seeing online, Twitter, Dog Nation, wherever you keep up with your Georgia news, that Georgia's been having these intense practices, your Bloody Tuesdays, your DB drills, all that stuff that Colbie and this staff is known for. You hear even other people, other analysts on different stations talk about the physicality of Georgia practices and how you know that's been really key right now. But it's really hard to replicate that in-game momentum. But one thing that we're also seeing from practice is that Georgia's having a chance to really get healthy right now. It looks like that we're probably going to see Colbie Young and both Ethan Barbour come back, which is really good for us. But I'm kind of looking over this Georgia team now, and I talked about Gunnar and his kind of redemption arc in this position from last year. Think about all the weapons he's going to have at his disposal, right? The offensive line, yes, we're down Bobo, but the backup center from Cartersville, Malachi Tolliver, has shown that he can fill in without a whole lot being lost on the offensive line. You have the dominance of the offensive line, the tight ends, the wide receivers, the running backs. Gunnar is going to have every single weapon at his disposal. The defense has been playing very well, really since the fourth quarter of the Ole Miss game. So to me, and we can talk about Charlie Weiss Jr. and Pete Golding, who are in charge of the Ole Miss staff now. To me, I think the real story of this game is Georgia has gotten better every week since they played Ole Miss. I'm not taking anything away from Ole Miss because they've been a good team throughout. You mentioned their SEC schedule wasn't as tough as a lot of others, and I haven't really seen them hit another level either, right? And they've been dealing with Lane Kiffin in that drama. And, they're still going to have to deal with drama given Lane Kiffin's probably going to try to poach some of the coaches and some of the players. So I like where Georgia is right now, and I think that's really going to be the story of the game, plus obviously the keys and stuff that we're going to break down here on this episode.
Yeah. I'm not going to start feeling sorry for Ole Miss. I refuse to do that. But they definitely have their hands full, and more power to us to not have as much drama. Sometimes teams rise up, fight through adversity. So I think if I'm Ole Miss, I try to use all of that. But as far as the players we're getting back, Ethan Barbour, Colbie Young, yes, big body, matchup nightmare receivers. But in the same breath, both of them, because of their stature and their overall tough attitudes, both of them are very willing blockers when need be. That puts another feather in our cap. And if we did one thing really well consistently at an elite level, the first go, it was run the ball. That seems to be the thing that no matter what Ole Miss game you watch, they really struggle with stopping the run.
And since we're already talking about the wide receivers, I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention Zachariah Branch. He has a chance to break the single season record for receptions at UGA, and he needs 4 more receptions to do that. He has been a beast for this skills team unit this year. Whether you want to picture him as a scat back or a slot receiver, he's done everything, bubble screens, gotta love it. This year has just been great for us. And then on top of that, Cam Coleman from Auburn, the wide receiver, has also placed his name in the transfer portal. A lot of people were waiting on that. And, as Georgia fans, we've been watching. Kirby's been, trying to keep close to that. So another wide receiver that we may add to this unit come next year. But just wanted to talk about those 2 wide receivers since we were already on the topic of that.
Yeah, and maybe we're a year removed from wide receiver being the biggest offseason topic heading into this year. And not only have we addressed that, we have the depth moving forward where if Zachariah Branch does decide to forego next season, go to the NFL, we got guys that I think can step up. And like you mentioned, Cam Coleman, big-time player, but there's other guys too in the transfer portal that we could add. So we were once rightfully very concerned with this wide receiver room. We've done a complete 180, and it'll be cool to see what type of depth actually comes into play. So we got some young guys, Talon and CJ, that both could contribute. So interesting to see if that happens. Maybe Sokovie White gets more touches. Maybe London Humphrey gets more touches. Yeah.
Don't forget about these weapons. I'm telling you, Gunner's cupboard is absolutely full right now. Bobo's too. That's why I'm kind of confident about where we are right now. We don't have everybody we want, but buddy, we've got weapons, and we're going to be a problem, especially for a defense like Ole Miss.
Yeah, there's not a good defensive coordinator who doesn't try to take away what a team does best, right? And if you're talking about Zachariah Branch being one of our main producers, they take him away, one of the guys we just mentioned could come into play. So looking forward to seeing that. So in the past week, rewatching Ole Miss at Georgia, that game was a lot closer than the final score would even indicate, even though it was close. And Ole Miss really had us on the ropes for a good portion of the game, including when we were down for a little bit. So how much of that do you think actually plays into this second game? Given both teams didn't even punt to the third quarter, there's no Lane Kiffin. How much of that comes into play for this game?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, most fans off the rip, you're thinking about what changes will Ole Miss make, right? You've got Pete Golden, who was the defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach, right? I think this Ole Miss team really needs a defensive-minded coach to be there. But again, he was the defensive coordinator the first time when Bobo went crazy on him. So it's not like he's had a chance to recruit the type of players that he wants. So there's not much Pete Golding can do from that aspect. Obviously, he may take it more upon himself to try to hinder what we did. But what do you take away? Do you take away the running back? Do you take away Gunner's legs? Do you take away the tight ends, the wide receivers on the outside, the inside? What do? You can't really do anything from his standpoint. Now, offensively, I think Charlie Weiss will give a different flavor. Lane Kiffin is known for that high tempo, really being an in-game genius about scheming up weakness is, especially with Kirby, who he knows very well in his defenses. Charlie Weiss is going to have a bit of a playbook, but he's not going to be able to duplicate what Lane Kiffin does. Now, will it be drastically worse? I doubt that, but I'm not sure how much besides a few kind of crucial calls will be the difference on Ole Miss's side. Now, on the UGA side, again, I think UGA has gotten better since that game, right? We talk about DeMelo Jones, who has done nothing but grow and develop. We talk about Ellis Robinson, who's done nothing but grow and develop. We talk about our pass rush, which has gotten a lot better, right? We have a healthy CJ Allen. I don't think he was hurt during that game, but we have a healthy CJ Allen nonetheless, right? The different units on defense, the secondary, the linebackers, and the front four have all taken a step forward. And truthfully, I think Ole Miss, they gave us their best shot. They were on the road, and they were up on us most of that game. They played better for 3 quarters, and then Georgia went crazy in the 4th. So if Georgia cannot allow Ole Miss to jump out to such a big lead to start, I think really this game belongs to UGA as long as we don't play poorly. You know what I mean? I know that's kind of easy to say, summarize, but that's kind of what I'm seeing, right? UGA's grown as a team. Ole Miss has kind of been the same thing. And if they didn't beat us last time, I doubt that they get that type of lead again. But stranger things have happened.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's like it's Georgia's game to lose, but it will be hard for Ole Miss to beat Georgia if both teams really play their shit.
Yeah.
That seems – we're not expecting either team to just have perfect drives back to back to back and not have a punt till the 3rd quarter. Like, that's unlikely that it'll happen. And Kewan Lacey is probably maybe right up there in the conversation with Zachariah Branch. Obviously, I'm biased, but as one of the best transfers coming into a team this season? Or
Yeah, for sure.
He was with Missouri. So, yeah, I would say, obviously, Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame, is the name that stands out, but who's been tested more than Kewan Lacey at Ole Miss and the defenses he's actually gone against and the type of plays he's had to make? So that dude is a game breaker, and Trinidad Chambliss has done a lot better. This Ole Miss team really had a bad go of it, and I think it plays into the politics of the College Football Playoff Committee and how they placed it to where 2 elite SEC teams, arguably the 2 teams peaking the most towards the end of the season, end up on the same side of the bracket, and the weaker SEC team does not. And I think it's bullshit in a certain sense, because I think if somehow it were mixed up a little bit better, Ole Miss could make a run for a national title. I think this Ole Miss team is a little bit more scary than Ohio State, because while Ohio State definitely has a little bit better defense and they're probably more well-rounded, this offense is the best offense right now going into the college football playoff. They're ranked 2nd in total offense, 10th in total scoring. There's not another team really like it, including Georgia, at least on paper, with what their offense is doing. Now, I think we've kind of played our cards close to our chest on purpose, but I think that's what Ole Miss could do against us and unfortunately have success, especially if Georgia has the slow start malaise, because, dude, that's the one thing I am kind of concerned about. Not because I don't trust Kirby, the mentality, whatnot, but these college football players right now are more pampered than they've ever been. They're more paid than they've ever been. And it's Christmas time, the cold weather, the cookies. It all can catch up to you. So I just hope this Georgia team really comes to play and jumps in an ice bath or something before the game. Does something to really like ramp up the adrenaline and get ready to get punched in the mouth, because that's what it's really all about.
So, Keegan, UGA's actually won now, dating back to the game in October, 11 of the last 12. The 2016 game got vacated. We talked about that. But as of late, especially when both of these teams have been good, the home team has been winning this game. Georgia, 3 years ago, we beat them at home pretty good. Then last year with Jackson's Dart, we go to Ole Miss, we get drummed pretty well. Come back here, we win. It's kind of been that way when both teams have been really good. But now we have a game in New Orleans, neutral site. Who do you think has the advantage now that home team is completely off the board?
I still think Georgia has the advantage, because I think that we have the better. I think I think that Georgia has the advantage because while if this were a 7-on-7 game, this would be a lot more daunting. It would be a lot more of a wash. Now, obviously, the tight end room, linebacker, obvious advantages, but the rest of the more so skilled positions, it's more of a wash. It's more of a who's going to get lucky. Is the ball going to bounce your way? Is your coach going to call the right scheme? It's a lot more in the margins, but where Georgia, I think, has a clear advantage is in the trenches. So we really just need to be physical and win there. And I think everything that Ole Miss could do that makes them very dangerous, that makes them a great team. And like I said, 7-on-7, maybe it's a coin flip, but I don't think you include everyone else in the reality of Georgia pretty much was winning a lot of the battles up front. Georgia was winning a lot of the battles up front on defense, but the biggest thing that has to change going into this game is the offensive line has to play a little bit better. We did great running the ball, right? And if we get some – and it's kind of ironic, Colbie goes down in that game, but he's coming back. Ethan Barbour is coming back. So I think blocking will be improved just on paper. It makes sense for running the ball. But there were a lot of times where – some of the best highlights that Gunner made in that game were because he had to make plays and bail his offensive line out because the initial penetration, the swim moves, the finesse moves were working really well with the defensive line of Ole Miss. Right. So I don't think they have any one guy that's just going to bum rush the quarterback and completely overpower an offensive lineman. But I think the reason they did well with some of the initial pass rush where Gunner made plays was because of the speed and the finesse. So that's one thing I definitely think we need to sharpen up in the rematch.
Yeah, you look at the stats, and this Ole Miss team is high-powered, especially that offense. They have playmakers on the outside. They have a really good tight end. You talked about Kywin Lacy and Trinidad Chambliss. These guys are for real. Make no mistake about it. These guys have playmakers all over the field on offense. But for Georgia, what's going to win this game, and I think is going to carry us deep into the playoffs, is this team is deeper, more talented, and like you said, when it comes to the line of scrimmage, Georgia is a tough out. And I think for Kirby, I think it's really simple. We've said this so many times this year. We're going to run the ball. We're going to stop the run, right? If we can make Kywin Lacy have to go 2 yards per carry, it's going to be a long day for him. A lot of hits, and we're going to force Trinidad Chambliss to operate from the pocket and not be a playmaker with his legs that makes them one-dimensional. If we can give Gunner every opportunity by running the ball effectively, get in some of that pistol formation and start doing play action the way Bobo's been doing, we're a problem. We got screens coming at you. We got Noah Thomas running deep. We got tight ends over the middle. We got inside zone, outside zone, whatever we have to do with the offensive line that's bearing on you for 4 quarters. It is going to be tough, and we've already broken Ole Miss's will and won 4-quarter game. I think this is another opportunity for Georgia to show they are not rusty, and they've had a lot of rest.
Like how you put that. Yeah, game 1, if y'all remember, Lawson Lucky had 3 touchdowns. So he has a great game, but part of the reason Lawson Lucky was able to succeed at that high clip is because they started to key in and look to the edge more, because at first – we were busting it open on the wide receiver screens, the bubble screens, everything to the outside. They key in on that. Now all of a sudden Lawson Lucky's open for 3 touchdowns, right? So it's kind of like you said, pick your poison. Georgia is doing well to key in. And in the first game, there were a couple of times where we did well over the middle because we're faking the bubble screen, because we're faking the pull with the tight end. So he's set up looking like he's going to block. A linebacker's crashing down, and all of a sudden a receiver takes his place, right? And he's wide open. So we've done really well scheming guys open. And I think that if Gunner has a little bit more time to throw this go round, and when we do run it with him, we do it more in a designed fashion, I think that's the perfect complement to have the linebackers looking more for the QB run, and then the tight ends are open again. So it's going to be tough sledding for Ole Miss, but I think if we can just play clean football, it's really ours to lose. That said, you got to play aggressive, make the plays, and really come in ready to battle it out.
So Keegan, if you had to pick 2 players on offense, 2 players on defense for Georgia, who are you watching in this game who is going to help us make the difference from a win and a loss and a chance to move on to the next round of the playoffs?
So what I'll do is I'll go one player that's kind of obvious and another guy kind of off the beaten path. So in offense, I think that Zachariah Branch has to have a big game. If he can at least get himself open and start to make the defense really crash in around him, he's going to open up things for other guys like he's done all season. And honestly, he's had so many close calls on some of these returns. He's due to break it open for one. And that was a big thing. If you look at his highlight tape at USC, he was having even better returns then. So I think Zachariah Branch can be an X factor in the return game and just pressuring the back end of the defense. But off the beaten path, I think Malachi Tolliver thus far has done an excellent job stepping in for Drew Bobo. If he can continue to communicate to his O-lineman at a high level and just be physically dominant where we need it the most, really make some space, there's a chance he might block better than Drew Bobo. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to put him in a box. I think Drew Bobo has the obvious edge and expertise and veteran leadership, but Malachi Tolliver, he can be a dog in the trenches for us. So those are my 2 on offense. And then on the defensive side of the ball is KJ Bolden. He's someone that has been dominant. He's had several 5-star wide receivers he's shut down already in his career. And who's to say that KJ Bolden doesn't have the game of his life this coming January 1st against a very talented Ole Miss offensive wide receiver group. But Chito, who are you looking to, and just what other kind of X's and O's really speak to you with this matchup?
Offensively, I'm going to keep this very simple because I think Gunnar Stockton is the cog that makes this wheel turn. Gunnar is going to have a chance to exercise his demons from his last appearance in this very same position. He went up against a championship level defense in Notre Dame that day with little preparation, thrust into the limelight. That is a really difficult position to be successful, and he had a lot of turnovers in that game. Made a lot of good plays, and I think a lot of Georgia fans at that time saw that he was capable of doing what he did this season. I don't know if we expected that, but he's shown that and he's grown as a player. But really what gets me the most excited is that he is going to have a loaded cast of skill players and linemen and running backs to get this job done. And mind you, we have people that are going to be NFL eligible, seniors, right? Dylan Bell, Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, Oscar Dell. I mean, these are guys that are going to be playing in the league. So really, this is going to be an opportunity for Gunnar to just play point guard and be an athlete. Just distribute the ball to all of these players, follow the game plan that Bobo has actually been doing very, very well this year. Even if it's not the play that you like, Bobo has been he's been in his bag. You really can't doubt that. So offensively, it's Gunnar Stockton 100%. And I'm confident that it's Gunnar Stockton because he has been a bright spot for this offense, has really changed the pace and the tone, especially that dual threat capability. And then defensively, I'm picking 2 players here that play the same position that have really allowed this defense to go from good to above average to damn near great, which is where we're at right now. And again, I've already mentioned them. It's DeMello Jones and it's Ellis Robinson. This offense is going to make you play one-on-one on an island against some of these really skilled wide receivers. But DeMello Jones and Ellis Robinson, the way they've been playing, gives you a lot of confidence that you can hang out in the back end one-on-one. If you don't get to the quarterback with pressure, which it could be a problem in this game, given that Trinidad Chambliss is a magician back there. But these guys are starting to show that they are going to be elite cornerbacks. And they're not going to be alone either. We still have Dalen Everett who's going to be back there. You've got KJ Bolden, who you mentioned. Whoever ends up playing at safety, probably Ja'Cory Thomas is what it's looking like, is going to be there overwatching the whole thing. And then even Jonel Aguero, who these guys have had a chance with another week of practice. Even though it's downtime, it's a chance for them to get better. And with Kirby and that defense and Glenn Schumann, you're going to get better over time. So I'm really excited about both the offense and the defense and these players because I think we have a real chance to take down Ole Miss and to start a really deep playoff run. Can't wait.
And once we clear Ole Miss, really, who is the threat offensively at least? Like, I know Bama has some guys. Like, every team has some guys. But there's a reason Ole Miss is at the clip they're at. And the last time we beat them, we didn't beat them with defensive dominance. So if we can make that be the thing, that really is the confidence-building win going into the next potential game. So,
and let me throw in this X factor if I could.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this movie before with a different team, but I just want UGA fans to be aware that this could happen. Trinidad Chambliss is a great quarterback, but he could struggle. Don't be shocked if Ole Miss tries to throw a wild card in here and throws Austin Simmons into the mix. We saw the last time we played at Ole Miss when Jackson Dart, I remember if he got hurt or if he's just playing bad, went out and then Austin Simmons came in and led them down the field. Maybe they were in the red zone, but they scored a touchdown when Austin Simmons got in there. Don't be surprised if they try to add a little wrinkle or try to do a little something different, or, try the Tim Tebow. Who was Tim Tebow the backup for before he was the starter? Who was that quarterback for Florida?
Chris Leak.
Chris Leak?
Yeah, Chris Leak.
The Chris Leak, Tim Tebow type of thing, given the scenario. That would be a great wrinkle. And we don't know Charlie Weiss's his own flavor. It's worked against Georgia before, so just be aware that that might be a thing. But other than that, I do like Georgia in this one. And Keegan, if you're ready, we can go ahead and drop a score prediction and maybe talk about some of these other games in the playoffs as well.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, one thing I saw a lot on Ole Miss's tape is the occasional reverse rollout to either a receiver or running back, where it's basically like they have a run-pass option type thing out in the edge. So Ole Miss can be funky. They can mix it up. They can call some trick plays. And considering they lost last time, this is probably the biggest game in Ole Miss history, right? Probably the biggest game in decades for this Ole Miss fan base. So they're going to be bringing it. They're going to be motivated. But I like this game to be a little bit more defensive than the first go. I think Georgia wins 31 to Ole Miss's 19. Dogs on top all day. Super pumped for it, but that's what I got. Chito, what are you looking for as far as a score prediction on your end?
Yeah, this one's a tough one to kind of call because I do think it's going to shift to a little bit more of a defensive type of game as well. But both of these offenses are really efficient. Georgia more so, Ole Miss more explosive. And then the last time we played, Georgia won 43-35. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. Both of these teams know each other, and it's not going to be about out-scheming the other team. It's going to be about out-executing and being more physical than the guy across from you. And that favors the University of Georgia. So I'm going to go 34-24, Dogs on top, and get a quarterfinal win and a little bit of a revenge game from Georgia's position last year when we lost to Notre Dame.
I love it. Let's go. Let's get it.
Okay, so this is kind of a cool opportunity to do a little bit of a different pick six because we have 4 games that are going to be a part of the quarterfinals. And then, Keegan, I don't know which 2 you picked, which 2 games, bowl games that you picked to be your extra 2. We'll see if it's different than yours or mine. But let's start with the big 4. If you want to start at the top of the bracket, who you got coming out after this week's? I guess all the games will be done by New Year's Day. So who you got moving on to the semis?
So let me ask you this. Is it appropriate that we call it an Elite 8, or is there like a football equivalent? Basketball Elite 8. What are we calling this?
I think when you get in a bracket format like this, I think officially it's okay to call it an Elite 8, a Final Four. It's not, you don't coin it, but that's what you refer to it as. I'm pretty sure.
I'm just wondering because it is new.
Sure.
So in this Elite 8, I'll just say.
You can call it the Ocho if you want to.
The Ocho, yeah. Los Ochos. That's actually probably terrible Spanish. So let me just start by saying, Chito, compared to last year, I love these games. I think this is a great slate of games. Now, granted, I think we had to weed out some teams that maybe shouldn't have belonged to get here, but I love the teams that are still standing. So I guess let's start off with what I think could easily be, and it's a toss-up on which one of these games will be the funnest to watch, but And I just love this matchup just because both of these teams are kind of like outside of the blue blood spectrum, but they're both loaded. I think the Ducks end up taking it just barely over Texas Tech, but I really like this Texas Tech team. And the rebel in me that just wants to give the hot takes wants to pick Texas Tech to push all the way to the national title. But, yeah, give me Oregon in this one. What are you thinking on the Orange Bowl, which I guess, according to you, it's in Florida, right?
Yeah, this Capital One Orange Bowl, I think, is going to be a great game. Texas Tech has found their way into the elite of football teams. Now, time will tell if they're going to be a stayer in this type of position, but I think Oregon is one of those teams that's been building their team the right way for a long time. Dan Lanning's a great coach. They have a great quarterback who's getting all sorts of NFL draft buzz. I'm going to take Oregon over Texas Tech, and I think the Ducks can make a pretty deep run this year.
Yeah, I do too. I like that. And yeah, I like that a lot.
Yes, moving on to the Rose Bowl. I think outside of our game, obviously, I think I'm most excited for this one because I, like a lot of other SEC fans who have been, just been beaten up by Alabama over the years, I thought there was a weakness there. They weren't healthy. Georgia got one over them, but they are starting to get pieces back. And that win over Oklahoma absolutely ruined my bracket. I want to see if Indiana and their Heisman quarterback and Mendoza can deliver in the granddaddy of them all. I don't know if he's going to be able to handle this type of pressure. A great team, but Alabama starting to get some steam is a scary proposition. I think I'm going to go Alabama here, a team and a fan base that has seen it, that has done it. I hope Indiana can prove me wrong, but give me Bama here. I think they're built for this. I think they're healthy enough to really pull this one out.
I think Bama is one of those teams that is super dangerous and they can do a lot of damage in the playoffs as far as making a run. But I don't think there's a team, including Georgia. Granted, the competition is skewed, right? So it's like you got to deal with that in your mind how you want to. But I think Indiana has played the cleanest brand of football of any team all year. And I think a big part of that is because not just of what Mendoza's doing, but Kurt Cignetti is a revelation up there in Bloomington. The dude is probably, I wouldn't say he's on Kirby's level. He hasn't won any national titles, but he's got to be in the top handful of coaches in the country. Really came on strong with his career. I think football habits matter. Now, this is a crazy matchup as far as like Indiana's the number one team, but their blue chip ratio is basically non-existent versus like you talked about, Bama has been the blue blood of blue blood. So it's going to be a crazy matchup as far as like a David versus Goliath, a NIL transfer production versus five-star high school talent. Like, it's as much a philosophical conversation and battle taking place as it is an actual football game for me. It's just interesting because both of these teams, both of the rosters were really built entirely differently. So I like Indiana just because I believe in good habits winning out, and they played a cleaner brand of football all year. They have a great pass rush. They got elite wide receivers, and Mendoza is the truth. So every time I pick against the Tide, it ends up biting me in the ass, and they just show up in the moment they're supposed to. So I guess that's what championship teams do, and I'm very excited to watch it too. But yeah, give me Indiana, and I think I want to just trust the football karma gods if that's a thing. Indiana does what they need to do. And then for the last game, at least in the playoff bracket here, Miami has been so deadly with their top-end talent. They can compete with anyone. Chito, do you think they have what it takes to withstand Ohio State's defense? And can they really surprise everyone by surging at the end of the season?
A rematch from a 2003 championship game. Miami has not been in this position in quite some time. I think it is going to be interesting to see if their front four can really rattle Julian Sayin. I think that's really their best bet. Even in the game where they just beat Texas A&M, that was a 10-3 game. Miami, great defense. Can they continue to hold teams to 3 points and wins? That's going to be tough because to me, Ohio State has three of the best players in college football this year, and Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, and Caleb Downs. So I'm going to go Ohio State here, but I think Miami may make this a game. I think they're better than I'm giving them credit for, and maybe some other people in the college football space. So we'll see. But I'm going Ohio State. And listen to this, my four to come out after this week's games. Oregon, Alabama for me, Georgia, and Ohio State. These are premier programs in college football. I would be so happy if these 4 teams got to move on, because with all this NIL and transfer stuff, college football looks like it's, disintegrating in front of our own eyes. But this would give me at least a little bit of hope that college football will still reward you if you run your program the right way. So I'm really hoping for that outcome, but we'll see. A bunch of good games, a lot of football to be played.
Yeah, I think Miami might surprise people with what they do in the trenches. And Ohio State, the best team they played outside of Indiana, which they lost, a very defensive matchup, was probably Texas, I guess, who was maybe, the 5th best SEC team this year, a little bit overrated to say the least. I think Miami is surging at the right time. Nothing about Ohio State in their season shows me that they're any more of an offensive powerhouse than Miami. So I think Miami surprises people in this one, takes it a step further, and then even though the SEC media people and the national media people are going to love it because it's Carson Beck versus Georgia, I do think that is what happens, and maybe destiny has put us on this path, but I think Miami has enough ballers and game breakers to make a difference. I said that last week. They doubled down, proved it, and then some. I think Miami takes Ohio State in that one. And who do you have as far as your bowl games?
Yeah, so in my other 2 bowl games, it was kind of hard for me to decide who I wanted to pick. But I'm going Texas over Michigan in the Cheez-It Bowl. And then I'm going Mississippi State Bulldogs over Wake Forest in the Duke Mayo Bowl. Simply because I like Cheez-Its and I like mayonnaise. So those are my 2 games, and those are my 2 picks.
I don't know if I've ever heard of a better reason to pick a game.
Makes sense to me.
Has anyone figured out, though, that Cheez-Its actually go well with mayo? That's a crazy...
I ain't say all that now. But
I'm just kidding.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah, so embattled Michigan versus limping Texas. Give me Texas in that one. I think Texas does what they need to do, pulls it out. In Vandy versus Iowa, I think Vandy has had a great season, and Iowa has kind of remained relevant. They have a great football program as far as football programs go that are long-standing, right? At least with a certain degree of consistency. I think Vandy finishes strong and moves on to the Jared Curtis era. I love it when I pick Vandy because I get to say, anchor down, baby, anchor down.
Yeah, low-key, I almost picked that one. I think that's going to be a really good one. So, and last but not least, fantasy season is almost done. We have Monday Night Football with the Falcons and the Rams. I refuse to talk about the Falcons, but Keegan, I'll give you the platform if you want to put your team on a little bit, going up against Matthew Stafford. And then one more week in some leagues. Some leagues are done after this. So if you're fighting for a fantasy championship, best of luck. It's almost done.
Yeah, it was a disappointing season for the Falcons, to say the least, but they have some core elements of the team that are good that I like moving forward. But the biggest news right now is that, and it's needed, baby, Matt Ryan is being at least interviewed or majorly spotlighted for a potential front office job. I think that would be a cool way to have things go full circle. Matt Ryan, if he's got anything, it's leadership capability, football IQ, and it just gives the fans some peace of mind that someone in the front office knows what they're doing. The consensus on the streets is that longtime football operations guy Rich McKay has got to go. So if he goes, or at least Matt Ryan comes in, I don't think any fan is going to be really satisfied until Rich McKay is gone. But him and Arthur Blank are like butt buddies, so we'll see if that'll ever happen. But yeah, Matt Ryan in the fold could be a big deal for Falcons fans, and they need to do something because there's too much actually working well on this team with too many close games, frustrating moments. So hopefully we can salvage something of the season. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at. But I think, let me ask you this, Chito, final forecast of the picks here. What's your Super Bowl matchup looking like? NFC, AFC real quick.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit less likely, but my preseason pick is still an option, and I'm going with the Bills versus the Eagles.
Okay. Now, the way it seems to shake out, a lot of times it's the teams with the experience and the veteran presence that make the push, just like Georgia's trying to do right now in their playoff push. So I do think that's very Like, I think it makes a lot of sense, but I'm going with like some new bloods here. So I
was about to say, this is a year for a new blood type of situation, given the way the playoffs look right now.
Granted, I didn't have a preseason take to hold on to, so like, it's a little easier for me here. But I got AFC Jaguars doing their thing. I think they've played great. They're a dangerous team. No one on offense besides New England looks good. New England looks really good, but I think they have the most dangerous offense right now, especially in the AFC. Now in the NFC, I got to go Rams. I think Matt Stafford is it's not that he's having a resurgence, but this is just one of his better years, and for him to be getting older.
Having an MVP caliber year. Him and then the Pats in the AFC. So yeah, I like it.
I think it's gonna be Rams, NFC, AFC Jags. So we'll see if that takes place. But I know a lot of people will be excited around Georgia if that does happen, because you got one guy from the state of Georgia, Trevor, and then you got another guy, Matt Stafford, who played at Georgia. So that'll be big time happenings.
And this is the best time of the year where college and pro is getting set up to crown what could potentially be a new champion. So it's 3 wins for Georgia to potentially get the 3rd title in the Colbie era, and we will be with you guys every step of the way. Keegan, I appreciate you. Dog Nation, it's been a blast, and this is going to be a great game. Stay locked in. Make sure you check us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether that is Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Check out our Instagram page, like, subscribe. YouTube is there as well. And as always, guys, you know what it is.
Off the leash.
Off the leash.
I do it for the dogs. I do it for my dogs. Who you do it for? 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 I do it for the dogs.